Hi, second grade. Today we're going to be reading a book called Let the Children March. This is one of my favorite books to read during the month of February, and we'll talk a little bit more about why. So the title of the book is Let the Children March. The author, the person who wrote the book, is Monica Clark Robinson, and the illustrator, the person who drew the pictures in this book, is Frank Morrison. So the title of the book is Let the Children March. Let's read a little bit more about why the children want to march. For the children and teens of Birmingham, Alabama. 1963 in Birmingham, Alabama. I couldn't play on the same playground as the white kids. I couldn't go to their schools. I couldn't drink from their water fountains. There were so many things that I couldn't do. One warm spring night, my family went to church. We weren't there to have regular church services. We were there to hear Dr. King's speech. We were there to plan. He wanted to raise an army of peaceful protesters to fight for freedom. His brown eyes and flashing fire and love, Dr. King told us the time had come to march. There's Dr. King. If I march, Mama said, I'll lose my job, sure enough. I can't march, Daddy said. I've got a family to feed. But the weight of the world rested on our parents' shoulders. But this burden, this time, didn't have to be theirs. I don't have a boss to fear, my brother said, or a job to lose. We can march this time. We'll be Dr. King's army, I said. I'll be fine, Daddy, I promised. Don't worry, Mama. Dr. King didn't like children being put in harm's way. He was a daddy too, after all. But he said that though we were young, we were not too young to want our freedom. Let the children march. They will lead the way. On May 2nd, a sunny Thursday, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, cousins and friends, we all met at the church, dressed in our best, feet ready. In a silence so loud that all I could hear was my racing heart, we began to walk. Hand in hand, we marched, so frightened yet certain of what was right for freedom. The path may be long and troubled, but I'm gonna walk on. Will I be hurt? Would we be heard? Would it all be worth it in the end? I wanted to run from the angry faces in the crowd. Run from danger, run from fear. Boys and girls, brothers and sisters, cousins and friends, on and on we marched, we marched, we marched, singing the songs of freedom. 1,000 strong we came. Hate dogged my heels all day. Its yellow canine teeth sharp, but courage walked by my side and kept me going. Disperse or you'll go to jail, the police shouted on the first day. Disperse or you'll get wet, the police shouted on the second day. Disperse or we'll release the dogs, the police shouted on the third day. But we did not disperse. We kept on marching. We would not stop until things started to change. Hundreds of us went to jail on the first day, and even more on the second day. My turn wasn't until the third day. After I was sprayed by the water that was stronger than anything I have ever felt, rough hands pulled me forward and I fell to my knees in the police wagon. I was going to jail. Dr. King reassured my parents. "Don't worry about your children," he said. "They're going to be all right. Don't hold them back if they want to go to jail, for they are doing a job for not only themselves, but for all of America and for all of mankind." That night, crowded in a cell too small for even half of the children, we sang, "We shall overcome. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. And freedom is coming." Our parents couldn't be there with us, but we still sang, wrapped up in the proud and loving arms of our ancestors. I was still in jail, but we heard that on the next day and the next day and the next, more kids marched. The water hoses they used to sting us could not stop our fierce tide. The path may be long and troubled, but I'm gonna walk on. Turn the other cheek, we had been taught. Show love when there's hate. The world watched as hate bruised us, but for 7 days we walked only in love. The jail swelled into bursting, and even President Kennedy took notice. Daddy said the president received the letters and calls about us from all over the world. Our march would become a memory, a small part of a larger story. But we had been heard, and the seeds of the revolution had been sown. Two days and nights I stayed in jail, some days even longer. When I left, I was tired and sore, and my best dress was ripped. But my smile was as wide as the Mississippi River, because I had made a difference. "I am so proud of you, baby girl," Mama said. "Your march was what made them see." With nothing more than our feet, our voices, and our courage, we had done what others could not. Change was right around the corner. We felt like a cool breeze in Alabama August. On May 10th, the great news rang out. Dr. King had reached an agreement with the white leaders of the city. Desegregation would begin. One month later, I was playing on a playground I'd never been allowed to play on before. 2 months later, my family ate at a diner that we'd never been allowed to eat at before. Our march made the difference. We, the children, led the way, singing the songs of freedom. 1,000 strong, we came. The children and the teens of Birmingham in 1963 changed the world in the ways that they could never have imagined. Dr. King later wrote, "Looking back, it is clear that the introduction of the Birmingham's children into the campaign was one of the wisest moves that we have ever made. It brought a new impact to the crusade, the impetus that we needed to win the struggle." President Kennedy went on TV that evening of June 11th, just 1 month after the Children's Crusade, to call for civil rights legislation. He said, "Every American ought to have the right to be treated as he would wish to be treated, and as one would wish their children to be treated." The following year, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and Dr. King won the Nobel Peace Prize. The children truly, truly, truly had made a difference. There are plenty of ways that you can make a difference too. through volunteering, writing elected officials, fundraising, starting a petition, and educating yourself. When asked what she thought of the message of the Children's Crusade was for the youth, Janice Kelsley, one of the youngest marchers, had to say, "I want young people to know that each one of you has the ability to make a difference in their environment. You just have to have enough courage to evaluate the situation and stand up for what is right." So I love to read this book during the month of February because we're celebrating Black History Month, and this book is a great example of how children like you can make a difference no matter what. The children led this march, and just 1 month after these children marched in Alabama, 1 month after these children marched, the whole country was changed. And the president noticed that these kids marched, and the president of the United States noticed that these kids were not giving up. And these kids made a difference because laws were passed because these kids didn't give up. And what these kids want you to know is that you are never too young to make a difference. You can always make a difference, and you can always stand up for what is right, no matter how old you are.